the time to fight, it is clear that it's no longer necessary. Let us establish a party that will defend all blacks, all Africans in South Africa. That's how the African National Congress was established, by very important leaders, the traditional leaders who were the leaders in our country, who were in charge of their country, and the pastors who had become pastors after the education of how much we needed to respect God and respect the heaven and everything. These people then said to all who were below them, who were, in other words, ready to fight, who had been fighting as well. And they were there as the people who participated fully in the struggles to try to defeat the enemy that had arrived. We finally were defeated, as these were having more dangerous weapons than us. But that battle I'm talking about made us in South Africa to take a decision that we should no longer fight, but let us have a party that is going to campaign for freedom, because we're no longer free. It took a long time, and it was supported by everyone, including our colleagues, brothers and sisters throughout the continent. But as we were moving, and doing everything we could to say we need to be free, we are human beings, we are not animals. The oppressors were not worried. Instead, as they did, they colonized the entire continent and made us the owners and the indigenous people, as if we were the ones who came and found them ruling our country. They forcefully colonized us, and we had nothing to do except to say, let us discuss, let us be free. And they were not worried about that. They took everything, as my colleague was saying here. They took the land, everything, and pushed us from our areas to areas they thought were not important. We were very much close to what you could call slaves, because they did everything, made our traditional leaders just toys that are around, nothing else. They had no right to defend their own people by law, the Roman Dutch law. We had nothing. Our laws were put aside. We're angry, many wars, many people died. There was the last World War, which finally, when they were making peace globally, which excluded us, just them. they said, we should not longer make the people that we found in their areas miserable. We believe, as they said, we should have everybody being equal, what they call the equal rights. Everybody must be free, they must live the normal life, but not in Africa. They didn't. In Africa, they left us with what was called the countries that were belonging to Europe. The British had their own people here. The French had their own people here. They were staying there. And therefore, everything that was here, including what we were living on, was no more ours. They were taking everything from Africa to go and make their places more shine, to have everything. We were starving. They took land, they took everything. The fact that we're here, just a few of them were here, the majority were there, they actually were the ones who were ruling us. It was that led us to say, if they don't listen to us, what must we do? One of the presidents of the ANC, Chief Lutuli, in one of the meetings of the leadership, he asked the question, why are we being told by the whites that we are in fact the citizens when we are not? Why did, after the last World War, when they met, they said every human being must be given the right to be free, to do everything that others do? And he said, when the big countries met and said there must be equal rights, they did not mean us. We were not involved there because we had no equal rights. The whites were more above us. They were doing everything they wanted to do. And he said, this is unfair. In the meeting, he said, let us fight for our rights. And he said the Western countries in particular were not indeed thinking we are human beings. They thought that they were the human beings. We were their own things that are just kept around to be told what to do, what not to do. And he said, we must convince them that they are wrong because we are oppressed in our own countries. The discussion said, well, Comrade President, you cannot go there and talk to the whites about it because we are a president. You needed to fight here. And said, you must go or we must take your deputy. And it was agreed, and that's what led to President Tambo to be sent out to go and raise the issue that we cannot live in the manner in which we are. He went to stay and operate from London. Shortly thereafter, the ANC was banned. So in other words, let alone the right to raise your views, which was allowed to everybody else, but to us black ones, we were not allowed to do so. That is what led to the ANC to say, well, under the circumstances, we are left with no alternative but to fight, to take arms and fight again. After a long debate, it was agreed by all serious political parties. We had to say, let us fight once again. As we fought them when they were coming, let us fight them to take them out of our countries. Then, because we started fighting, we started saying, let us fight. Tambo went to the Western countries to ask if you could help to train our soldiers so that we can fight. What did the Western countries say? They said, sorry, Mr. Tambo, we'll never do so, because you are actually saying we must train you, have guns, know how to shoot and kill. You want to go back and kill our brothers and cousins. We'll never do so. So the Western countries said they were not ready to help us liberate ourselves, partly because those were their own countries, as it were. Tambo said, well, I've failed with the Western countries, that they should help us to liberate ourselves. And said that, let me go to the Eastern countries, which he did. Only when we went to the countries in the East, the socialist countries, were we given the understanding that these were people who said no one should oppress the other. And they trained us, made us soldiers. We started fighting, and that's what made us to be free at the end. That tells you the thinking of the countries that oppressed us all in Africa. They actually believe they own us. We belong to them. When we're now fighting and other countries going to demand to be free, they realized they were losing something. So what did they say? They said, okay, you have never, as if they found us just sitting. The fact that they found us with traditional leaders at different levels was not an issue to them. So they said, fine, we'll give you, what was it called? The first, when you were given, I don't know what it was, 1 year or something, to be checked whether you can rule a country. What was called self-governing. Just to check whether can you. Then if they think yes, they said, okay, we now give you freedom. They kept every other thing except just giving us freedom, and gave us the laws and everything. And therefore they were continuing, but now not in an open manner. And they will call you to come and check whether you can now run a country. Well, fine. Because they thought when they came, we were not ruling, and we were ruling. That tells you the thinking of the Western countries. very clear. The countries from the East helped us to fight. But the laws that they made against us were the laws that were not favoring us. If you talk about what the comrade here was talking about, whether you call diamond, whatever, even if we're ruling, they still belonged to them. Because we did not have anything to change our own lives. But we're free. But in reality, we're not free. Once they did so, once they realized that our leaders, and in particular, our leader from here, who was the first to lead a country, they planned all the tricks to take him out of ruling this country. Our leader, one of the most brilliant leaders, who was very clear about Africa. Who said, Ghana would not be free if Africa was not free. Precisely because of his honesty and knowing what needs to be done. They conducted a coup d'etat against him when he was out of the country. And that was the end of this leader that we all looked up to. They also murdered a leader who had been given freedom precisely because he told them they were not honest. He was killed. That tells you that our freedom was not necessarily a freedom for all of us. It was a freedom for the whites. That's a problem you have. And therefore, as we became free, it was just a story. It was not a reality. Because we were not. And they then organized people among ourselves because the issue of coup d'etats became the game in the continent because they did not want us. Those who were clear what they want, they will kill them, they will do everything, they will ask those who are here by them to do everything on them. So Africa, instead of becoming free and doing everything, instead it was very difficult. I have always believed that our freedom was not yet there, only now that it is beginning to be. And I think it has been said here that our brothers here, particularly from a particular country in Europe, they decided to say we are now freeing ourselves. But because we were also not understanding, people called it a coup d'etat when it was not. It was not like the oppressors who have made us to be something else. These were comrades who said we cannot be ruled by other people in the manner in which they were. They decided to take over their rights, and they are correct. And this, in my view, is a final destination of the Africans. For us to be free, for us to rule the manner in which we want to, for us not to take our resources to them whilst our people are not hungry, are not eating. So, Africa has faced a difficulty Africa in particular. I don't think there is a continent that has suffered as we did. They live because they take our resources. They do everything. Even when they teach us, they teach what they want us to accept and help them to do what they want to do. Some of us have come to a point that the time has come that Africa should stand on its own. They started wars here, making us to fight one another, to look at one another as enemies. And we say that time must pass. That time must pass, because this is our land, is our place, which is in the middle. It's not in the west, it's not in the east. We are in the middle. We need to live here. And we've got everything we need. But they take everything that belongs to us. What you talk about as rights are actually not rights. If we are free, why are we under the laws of the Dutch? We are not Dutch. We are not. Why we are ruled by those laws? It is because they still look at us as inferior people. But we are what we are. And I think it is our time to be what we are supposed to be. We should utilize our own resources to us. If they don't have them, let us sell them to them. Let them not just take them away from us and make themselves wonderful when we are suffering, where they take our own things. It is this that made me in particular to disagree with those I've been with. And I was very honest. And I told them, you are selling out. We are selling out our ancestors who said, let us be free. The problem is that our enemies know how to buy people and make them feel they are wonderful when they are actually killing the nation. We are very clear that our time has come in the continent. We need to be the one who must lead the others. They must buy from us rather than us buying from them. It is our own. And we still have a lot of it. Let us stop them before they take it all. And I think we need to be together on that and know what we are talking about. On the point that we only got people who were ready to help us, they were found in the East. Says a lot with the West, because up to this day, they don't want to be with us. They want to be sucking everything from us. And I think the time has come that we should be together. For an example, when we were saying this freedom is not free, they became more stronger in messing up. And precisely because they came from different parts, they then made us to look like we are different people. We are not Africans. And yet we are Africans. They cause wars, which they continue today to make us fight their wars, as if we are not one and the same. We are the same. We therefore looked in our history of fighting for our freedom, the people who helped us at least to have half freedom were people from the East, not from the West. Not a single one. You can't even point at one. There is only one country that acted differently from many. It's a country that had some communists. When the Communist Party in that country was stronger, it took over government. You try to find out. What was this? They said, we are communists, we cannot have us having people who are in Africa and say that those countries belong to us. No. And one of those countries was Mozambique. They said, sorry, Mozambicans take everything of yours. And that's how Mozambique and Angola and others became free. They were helped by the communists in the West. Nobody else has ever done it. And that caused a problem in Southern Africa. Because they thought Southern Africa, because it has what is called the Cape Point, which makes you to arrive any part of the world. They want it, they believe it belongs to them. And we had that problem, that therefore we're in trouble. In South Africa, when we were free, we had 4 provinces. They decided in the negotiation that we should have 9 provinces. Unknown to us that they wanted Cape Town to be their own as a country. Remove blacks there so that and tried to smuggle a point in the constitution that if a province says, fine, we want to be on our own. If it votes and the vote is bigger, that province will go away. Because they wanted to keep the Cape for crossing with their, what you call, goods. They always try to be clever. And unfortunately, I think we are as clever as they've been. Now, uthini baba ngifundanga kahle la? Where the president? Oh, uqashe la. This is show something. I think it is important to make the points, with all respect, my brother, that in so far as the issue of us as Africans in the West is the most difficult issue. For an example, when we realize that the Western countries are not honest in every respect, it was clear that the countries that were honest were in the West. and there is a history about it. And therefore, realizing that they are sucking us, and they're doing everything. You can't go to them and talk to them and have a good agreement with them. They want always to be ahead of us, taking everything. And there came a time when there were a few countries who were working together, and it was called the countries that think alike. I'm sure some will remember South Africa and India, and the one on the, there were about 3 countries that were working together. That led to other countries realizing that we can actually work together with others. And then the 4 countries who saw that happening, which was Russia, China, India, is it Brazil? 5. This made some of us realize that this coming together of these countries was so important, so that you can find a way to pull out of the countries that will never give you anything, the Western countries. That it was important that we therefore join, and we became the 5. These countries were thinking alike. Having seen how we have been treated, some of us were looking what was the way to get out of this problem. We saw an opportunity that Africa will, in the final analysis, have the support from the Eastern countries, as they did for our operations, to be free. That's the reason why, shortly after the ANC joined, we were, in fact, when there used to be countries that meet, what was this, a big, what was it, Big 10, Big 5, before whatever. Okay, that's fine. We were in Paris when I was very clear that I'm going to influence them to forget about the dollar. Well, the dollar is oppressing everybody, including them. Let us have our own. And I calculated that the 5 countries were in fact as big as the rest in terms of the economy and everything. We had a discussion, I raised a discussion very sharply, that why are we allowing the Americans to dominate with the dollar? I said, we here, I have checked, we have the same kind of quantity of whatever you talk about. They are not bigger than us. And we all said, yeah, what a word, what a thing. We then agreed, I immediately said, if it's agreed, let us then have our own, the BRICS. And that name must also name our finance. And that's how we then shook the world. Because they realized, once we said so, they said these ones are not serious. We also went further, and it was done by us first, the Africans, that when we were holding that meeting in Africa, we invited many heads of states to come and participate in our discussion, because we are now establishing our own, and we're going to be able to bring development in Africa. Now, once we did that, the next was in Latin America. They also collected their neighbors. It became a thing that whenever we have our meeting, what will happen is that all the countries nearby were taking them to our sides. They got angry, the Western countries, started to say, let us deal with these guys because they are used to do so. They then started with one by one. They started with the comrade in Latin America. They created things that he has done that he had never done. He was actually arrested, serious things, and was put into prison. Only later to realize there was nothing. They were just dealing with him. In India, they removed the old party and brought in the new fellow whom they would be controlling. In China, they used their propaganda to say China was useless, had no money or whatever, but they were lying. In South Africa, some fellow called Jacob Zuma was taken away before finishing his what you call. They were now killing this group of 5. They then made the biggest mistake to say they are going to attack Russia. And they did. And that turned around and helped us in terms of the money that I was talking about. Because once Russia said, my oil is not going away, whoever wants to take it, he will use the rubles, not the dollar. That turns people around. And it ended up with many countries, particularly in the Middle East, where there is oil, who said, whoop, we are going with Russia. So what they did, they were doing, it has actually hit back on them. And I said, this is the way we Africans in particular, we have got to take note of. That our time has come, that we can stand on our feet. Up to now, many countries are actually, the number has been growing of BRICS. It's no longer 5. It's been growing because they could see that this is the future. And it is the future from the East that will help us, not from the West. The West will always put us down. And I'm making this point because the issue of BRICS is a critical issue in changing the globe. BRICS, since then, even in the United Nations, became very powerful. They could not do anything about it. And indeed, not just there, even with other countries. And I can tell you, Russia in particular, because it's not a smaller country, it's a serious country. And it has been around for a long time. So, BRICS, in my view, is a party that we need to look at. We have, with the Western countries, been around for centuries. There's nothing that has ever been better. Even if you could love them in whatever, but they will never help you. They will teach you their English. That's all. But they would not go further than that. In any way, we need to stand on our own. it is my belief that that time has come. We have every possibility now to be ourselves, to be together, to use our resources for ourselves, sell it to those who buy it. It is us and nobody else. I'm very happy with the stand that this country of ours, number one, has done something important when it comes to the things that are dug down, or they change the system so that they are in control. I think it is making such a change that tells that if we come together, we will be the best in the middle of East and West, because we are the best. I'm sorry that I've taken your time. I was just adding to what my colleagues was saying. They say some people want to ask questions. I know they are very good in answering questions. I'm going to give them the opportunity. But thank you very much. If one is in Ghana, you feel I'm in the whole of Africa. This is our home. We saw freedom for the first time with Ghana. Thank you very much indeed.